About me, so I'm Serban, happy to meet you, and I'm born in Sibiu, and actually I want to get back there, to be honest. So yeah, let's see if I can get that working. I've been working at MSG for about 4 years now, a pretty good experience, and currently I'm a senior IT consultant at MSG, and I'm the lead developer and architect for a cloud-native solution built with SAP. So for the guys who are maybe surprised about this, yeah, SAP has some cloud somehow. So it's not the best cloud, it's some cloud. Okay, so a small intro to the presentation. I thought about what should I write, and I decided that I think I have a unique perspective here. Maybe you will tell me, maybe in the break. That I transitioned from a developer to an architect. And somehow, as I said, I'm doing also lead developer role, so I have both of the worlds right now. And I said, okay, let's share a little. So I want to share with you what I learned maybe, or what things I can tell you that I encountered and you might also encounter. So yeah. It's written based on my own experience, and it's not a recipe for success. So please don't write me afterwards that I did this and that and it didn't work. Yeah, it might work for me, but for you it might not work. So it's just my story basically here. Okay? So for the guys who are not in SAP or who are in denial, I will tell you a little about the SAP world, and again maybe you can contradict me. I don't think so. Let's see. So it's very strange. That's the way to put it. It's very different than the rest of the stuff that you might encounter, and yeah, they have their own way of doing things. So basically, they reinvent the wheel. They have this kind of, I would call it a fetish really. They want to reinvent everything and to put the SAP brand there on top. So it has to say SAP, and then yeah, it's good. But it's not good actually. So most of the stuff that you get from SAP is half-finished products which were sold on a lot of money basically, and then the customer says, yeah, but I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars maybe, or millions, and you have to make it work. Yeah, and it's not that easy sometimes. And another thing that it's very specific in the SAP world is that you have a very, very, very strong resistance to change. So customers have basically some legacy systems that they paid a lot of money and they want them to work. They don't want to change them with more money, they just want them to work. That's the idea. Okay, so then the question is, what can we do actually in this kind of environment to be a successful architect, right? You're the first guy who can do something, basically. So what should you do? Well, the first thing is you have to engage your customer. That's really, really important. There are architects, especially in SAP, that like to just go, lock themselves in a room, and say, okay, now I'm architecting. And after 2 weeks, they go to the customer and, yeah, this is my design, or these are my models. And the customer says, what's this? And then 2 weeks later, again, the same story. And it just repeats like that. No, you should actually, in my opinion, you should have always an interchange, basically, a back and forth to say, okay, exactly what systems do you have, to get it back, then to discuss, to try to understand as well as you can the landscape, basically. That's a pretty good idea. And another problem that a lot of people do is that you do the beginning, you do the models, and then you leave, basically. And you say, okay, now I did my work, the developers have to do their work now. This is a very bad idea. The architecture always evolves. So in time, you will change it and it will evolve, and you have to maintain, engagement with the team, basically. I think most of the developers in the room had one project in which they said, okay, the architect took this stupid decision, and now I have to live with it. But if you, as architect, also have to live with it, the team will say, okay, at least he also lives with it, and he also has to basically develop something in this strange thing that he designed, maybe. So it's a lot easier for the team and also for you to understand the problems if you are inside the team all the time. So that's really a very important point. You have to keep involvement in the team. So if you're the type that likes to just architect and then leave, that's not a solution. Okay? Then you have to always negotiate. So I'm sure that most of you, if you think about your current projects or your past projects, you had stuff that you would have wanted to change. That you wanted to say, okay, I want to use this technology now, or I want to use this particular thing, I want to change something in the process or whatever. If you're passive, you will not get it. That's the thing. So you have to be active, you have to be proactive and go and say, okay, we propose this. And the customer will say, yeah, it costs money, basically. So then you have to argument, okay, why do we want this, right? Everything costs money in a way, because, yeah, if you spend more time on a project, it will cost more, but you have to know to say, okay, these are the pros, these are the cons, and this is the value that we bring with this. And then the customer, if it's a decent value and you're not just making more tasks for yourself, basically, the customer will most likely agree if you know how to put it. Yeah, you also have to have some kind of diplomacy there and to know how to sell it, basically. Okay, and if I draw here a very interesting, let's say, diagram. I have also some managers for my company here, which might not like it that much. So basically, it always is a triangle, right? Maybe, or it can be. It's the project management, let's say, that has some needs or some desires from you. It's the customer who also has some needs and desires, and it's SAP. In our world, this is the old perpetual triangle. And yeah, SAP wants to have all the money in the world. The project managers want also some money, basically, and want a happy customer. And the customer wants some working software. Yeah? And also wants to not spend $500 million for, I don't know, a simple software that doesn't do that much in the end. Okay, so then what can you do? As an architect, you should try at the beginning at least to position yourself in the middle. You're the one who thinks that the software is the centerpiece and the other things are just floating around, and management has to basically tell you, okay, we want money. Okay, yeah, you want money, I want a good software, let's try to work it out. So then you can be the middleman and just always try to negotiate in this sphere with all these stakeholders. Okay? Then another really big problem is improvement. So in our industry, you always get new technology, right? We saw before one idea of a new technology or one type, and it's always, as an architect, very tempting to say, okay, always we will use the newest technology, right? It's very tempting. But what will happen if you always upgrade, if you continually upgrade the technology? You will never actually finish. So continuous refactoring and modernizing basically means that you will never finish. There are other guys, especially at SAP, which are in the opposite extreme. They never want to change. They want to do their old ABAP dintre screens, very ugly, very strange, and yeah, that's it. That's the one solution that they know, and that's what they want to always do. Basically new systems which are legacy. You're building a new system on old technology, it's like you're building a legacy system in the end. Okay, so here, what should you do? You should always analyze, try to find out the benefits, and try to see if it's really worth it. If it really brings something apart from development or developer satisfaction, right? All developers will say, I'm working with Spring Boot 2.0.1 or whatever. But what's the benefit for the customer? That's what you should think about in the end. Okay? And basically, what impediments we have to face. So here actually it's a very hard topic, let's say. As architect, you always will face impediments. So this, basically the job is to overcome problems, right? So then the question is, which of them are really horrible and which of them are manageable, let's say. And one of them, which happened to me, I don't know, 9 months ago, let's say, is to be involved late. So you have one architect who has some ideas, he starts it, and then he leaves, basically. And you have to pick up the pieces somehow, and also all these kind of strange things that he might have promised, and to make the customer happy again. And this is really, really, really a problem. So it's a very big problem. And there are some techniques here to try to make maybe a knowledge transfer with the other guy, but if the other guy is completely, a completely different architect than you, then you're fucked, basically. There is no, there is no way in which you can recover. If the customer is really understanding, like in my case, then it's okay. But if the customer is really saying, okay, I paid money, we did the architecture once, what do you want now, basically? And you have to say, okay, but my colleague made some mistakes. This is not politically correct to say, so you have to wrap it somehow. This is the challenge. Okay? And in the SAP world, this is really a problem, using unfinished technologies. So I think there is not one technology that was finished really when they launched it. UI5, HANA, whatever you want, all of them are unfinished basically. So then you don't have documentation, you don't know what works, what doesn't work, what you can actually use in your architecture and to think about the components. And then it's really a big black box, everything. And the last one that I would mention is not having essential knowledge, basically. In IT, you always have this, right? You always have a moment in which you wish, okay, I want to know more. I would need to know more now. But you cannot know everything, especially about the business, especially about the landscape of the customer. So then what you should do, actually, is you should use the team. So you need the team, actually. You might have a team of architects in your company, you might have just a development team, but it's 100% sure that the team collectively knows more than you alone. So then you should always count on the team and say, okay, I don't know this, but maybe somebody knows it. Let's talk and see if it makes sense what I'm saying and reach a middle ground. Okay, and another very important thing is that you learn from your mistakes. So, and you admit them. This is the very hard part, right? So you make mistakes and you could just sit on the high horse and say, no, I know everything, I don't make mistakes. But actually, if you admit the mistakes and try to learn from them, slowly you will be better. You'll just learn from yourself, basically. Okay? So this is more or less what I've learned from this experience. It was a very hard one. So if anybody from here wants to transition from a developer to a software architect, it's a very nice and fulfilling journey, but it's filled with problems, impediments, and also a very exhausting thing. So it's very hard on the way, but when you get there, it's hard basically all the time, but it's rewarding somehow, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Serban. Questions? Okay.
Laszlo.
From your point of view, which are the most important skills that an architect should have?
It's hard to say. So you have to have a good mix, actually, not one particular skill. You should have a mix of skills. You should have a T-shape in the end somehow. So you should know some technologies very well and some others, at least generally speaking. And you should have very good people skills in the end. You'll always have to negotiate with the customer, as I said, and with the team. So it's very important that you're able to do this, basically. So people skills and technical skills, basically, and to be able to see the big picture, right? So when the customer says, I want that small thing, you should be able to see, okay, this small thing basically changes everything. So you should be able to see the big picture from a very small detail. That's, I think, the most important, maybe, aspect.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Barbara.